So a couple little things that I'm going to demonstrate. One of them is a feature that REDCap has added with when you import data for repeatable instruments. I think it's a relatively new feature where if you have repeatable instances, instead of having to go in and manually type in all of the instance numbers, if you don't know them, now you can just put the keyword new in and REDCap will do it for you. So I just created this instances instrument, and it's just kind of like a doctor visit sort of thing. I just needed something that I could do, multiple things of. And I have added instances already. So, and just, random instances. So this one has 3. This one here just has 1. These have 0. That way you can see that instead of me having to go into, record for number 1 in the Excel spreadsheet or the CSV file and having to figure out what the next instance number is and, then do like 4, 5, 6, and then make sure this one doesn't have anything and this one has 2. I don't have to worry about that now. So if we go to the data import tool, this is the tip that they just, the feature that explains it. And so you can, it's very simple. You just put new in, and you don't have to put the quotes, the little single quote. The CSV should automatically do that for you. If you're doing it in a text document that doesn't have auto formatting, that kind of thing, then you probably want to put the little tick marks or the single quotes, because like Notepad's not going to do that for you. So I created just this instance CSV for import. I don't have the instances here. I'm also leaving the instances complete blank. That way you can see it should default to 0, which I think is the yellow. So that way we can see which ones got imported. And so what I'm going to do now is just put in new for all of these. And then when I go to import it, now here, instead of showing the instance, REDCap just has new for all the instances. And there's no errors. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and import. Everything was successful. Now, if we go back to the dashboard here, it's blue. It's because they're mixed statuses. That's why for the front here. But you can see these are red. So now if we go back to record number 1, you can see here that there were 3, and now it automatically did 4, 5, and 6. For the ones that didn't have anything, which are red, it's got 2, and this one had 1, and then I added 5 more. So you get the picture. So this is kind of nice because, and I stumbled upon this last week when I had to do an import from, I was doing an export from a biospecimen application that I manage and importing it into a project. And the problem was each donor had multiple events and each event had multiple samples, but depending on what they collected, the sample numbers were not all the same. So, some people had like 1 event and had 5 samples. Some people had 3 events and 20 samples. And so I was going through the CSV, and actually I moved it to Microsoft Access so I could run some SQL on it to try to tease out the instances, like, because I needed to know, it was like thousands of, like, I think it was like 21,000 records. So I didn't want to do it manually. So I was trying to do it with SQL. And then when I went to go to import, I noticed that, and I was like, oh, I could just leave that blank because all the specimens would be grouped by the record ID here. And so all I had to do is make sure that the records were in the order that I wanted them to be displayed, like this. Like if I had the sample ID, it would be the event and the sample ID in that order. So I just had to make sure the CSV was ordered the way I wanted it. And then I didn't have to mess with trying to figure out how to add the instance for everything. I just left it blank. I just put the new in. I had to do it in batches, which was the problem because, you know, REDCap kind of gets hung up when you're doing large imports. So I broke it into 3 batches, but I was able to do that using the new functionality and not having to manually enter all those instances, which saved me a lot of headache. So that's the first thing. Does anybody have any questions about that?
If you didn't add any new instances, it stays blank. I mean, I didn't get to look at real closely what you were importing, so it kind of looked like, oh, it looks like that's wrong because I thought you were importing exactly what was already in there.
No, so and that's why I left the these blank, so you could see anything that's green was something I entered manually in here ahead of time, and the red are the ones that I imported.
Right. A good an extra example would have been one with nothing on it and that you didn't import anything on it. Like record number 2. Yeah.
So like if I did like 6.
Well, not even an unexisting record, but just a record that had none and not import any new to it. Like on number 4, delete all your instances.
I see what you're talking about.
As, you know, just an example.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. That's it.
Okay. Would you like me to do that, or do you?
No, I mean, I believe it works.
Are you saying that if he would have put it in and 4 had no instances and he didn't add any instances, that it
in
would
the import? Yes.
it wouldn't have worked?
Well, no, I don't know if it would have worked or not. I assume it would, but it just would show another feature of the import. If you're not actually adding anything to a record, that it actually stays as it was.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have added the record ID to the spreadsheet. It's a good question and a good point, but it just row 12 and 13 just wouldn't have existed.
Exactly. 12, 13, 14 would be deleted from the sample.
Yeah,
because it would be different if I had like if I had exported the data from the REDCap project and I added records and then re-imported it, and REDCap would know that these records already existed and wouldn't do anything. But this would be a clean import where I'm grabbing data from somewhere else and formatting it, and then none of that exists in the REDCap application at all, or the project, and then I'm adding everything in there.
Right. But again, it could have been that subject number 4 didn't have anything new to be imported. That's potentially a situation.
Yeah.
So that was the only suggestion I had for your sample.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes sense.
Hey, while you're there, Manny, can you just point out, because I feel this is always a big thing when you're doing large data imports and you're importing records that are really complete, and then you get them all in there, and then you see they're all red, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want them, you know, it's really displaying incorrectly. Can you just show what you would put in so that they all turned up green instead of red?
Oh, you mean for the
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So
either update what you've got there using one column, you have the column there, this is complete, or just modify that and run it again so people see what happens.
So for the status, Terry's talking about the status icons here, and even though this is blank, it defaults to 0. So incomplete is 0, unverified is 1, and complete is 2. So when I import this, if I wanted these to be, if I wanted them to all be green, I would make sure that this instance is complete field. And this is, if you have the CSV, I recommend pulling the data dictionary from REDCap, because it pulls in these REDCap specific columns that don't exist if you just were to type or just grab the field values, field labels like this. So you want to make sure that it's the instances complete or underscore complete that REDCap adds. And if you want them to be green, you would make this a 2. So let me go ahead and save this. And then if we go back to the import, and it says here that it's an existing record. Anything, it's only going to update the 2s. So if I import this,
it's going to add.
Actually,
it's going to add.
Actually, you're right. It imported new because the column is new, it created new instances.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's going to, if you go to the record,
yeah,
all those records, you should see 3 green, 3 red, and 3 green.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you would do is you would export this. I would have had to put in the actual instances, and then it would have changed these to green. So like 4, 5, 6. So let me do that real quick for this. So let's it's just like 4, 5, 6 for the first one, and then
yeah, that's good, because that happens to me all the time. I have to go back and update those.
Yeah, and this is what I thought. This is what should have shown up last time. Anything that's grayed out, REDCap says that that data already exists and it will not change, and you can see that from the little legend up here. And then the only thing that's going to change is the 2 for the complete. So now if we go back to this status dashboard, now this is green because it's not mixed statuses. And if we click on this, you'll see that they're all green now. So yeah, that's like a very roundabout way to just kind of say that if anytime you do an import, if you want it to import as complete, just make sure that you put 2 in that value. So when you do the import, if you do the import and if you're not using the new keyword, if you have the actual instance number and you need to change that again, you can put the 2 in there after you've imported it, and it'll just overwrite. It won't overwrite the data that's already there. But you saw, like, if I just did it again and had the new, it's just going to add new instances. So.
And he could have, if he had done that and found that he had forgotten to add the complete, he could have just deleted all the columns except for the record ID and the instances underscore complete. Just so you know, to mark them as complete, it's always the name of the instrument, underscores for the spaces, and then an underscore complete. And that's the field that you use to mark them as complete. And you don't need all the data, you just need the record ID. In this case, you would need the instance number. Without the instance number, you couldn't have done it. Or if there was an event, you would need that too. But as long as you're just importing into like for me, I might import 50, like we have a project where we're getting data from other projects and we're importing it into REDCap as new record IDs, but I might want to import it and indicate that the import for that data for all those new records is complete, and I'll forget, and then I'll have to go back and I'll have a column for record ID, a column for like sticky matrix headers, underscore complete, and then all of those are 2, and then just set them all, run it, and then it'll update all those records. So
yeah,